welcome to Book Solid, New Canaan Library's podcast for young adults, new adults, and the forever young adults at heart.
I'm Sam Connell.
And I'm Kathleen Krause.
And we're both librarians here at New Canaan Library. This is really exciting. This is our third season. We've taken quite a bit of a hiatus throughout the summer, and now we're back in the fall.
So we're really excited. It's the start of season 3 and spooky season.
So for this episode, we read The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. The story is about a 35-year-old, her name's Nora Seed, and she struggles with depression, and at the very outset, you find out that she's going to commit suicide. You follow her through just a terrible day. She loses her job, her cat dies, and she loses one of her gigs. She's a musician, and she teaches music lessons, and she just feels that she has no one left. She's estranged from her ex-fiancé, and her relationship with her family members are either bad or she has lost members. Her best friend she no longer is in contact with. And so she does decide to take an overdose of antidepressants. She wakes up to find herself in a library that's filled with books. It's sort of a purgatory. And she runs into Mrs. Elm, who's this wonderful grandmotherly figure. And Mrs. Elm is the librarian at this midnight library and offers her a chance to experience an infinite number of Nora's possible lives. So there's this facing of regrets, and with each regret that she revisits and changes, she pulls a book from the shelf and she finds herself in one of her many parallel lives.
So before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that we will spoil absolutely everything. So if you have not read the book, or if you're halfway through the book, turn off the podcast now, finish the book, and then come back, because we're not really leaving any stone unturned.
Yes. So if you haven't paused, it's on you, because here we go. So Nora, she sort of moves through her different regrets. She starts with the big one, which is, what if she actually married this man, Dan? And she finds herself with Dan, and pretty quickly you find out he's an alcoholic. He cheated on her. She remembers all the things, all of the reasons why she had misgivings and why she pulled out of her wedding a few days prior. And then she returns to the library. And some of these regrets she faces are really small. She has guilt that her cat died. She's really attached to her cat. And she says, okay, well, my life wasn't so terrible. Let me just change that one thing. I wish the cat didn't get out and I wasn't the cause of his death. And it turns out that the cat would have had a stroke anyway. So she's relieved of this guilt. And then she journeys through. She had a potential future as an Olympic swimmer. She was a swimming prodigy at age 12, and she was a musician, and she started a band with her brother and her brother's friend Ravi, and they were on the brink of success. And so she explores all of these different lives. Somewhat, I feel like there's a little bit of the Wizard of Oz in terms of waking up in her life and seeing everybody differently, and all of these characters in her lives that she explores in this sort of fantasy world. And then there's a little bit of a Dickens twist of exploring all of these lessons through these experiences of what your life might have been. So part of that was hard for me to digest because I felt like I knew where the story was going, but I'm curious, what did you think?
I think that's a really great point, that this is very reminiscent of sort of those "it was all a dream" or those kinds of stories. It's a Wonderful Life, I think, is one that it's definitely very similar to as well. And I think that's a certain type of story that I hesitate to say comfort, because a lot of these are actually, the starting point is suicidal ideation. But after this kind of thought of, is my life worth living, it is very affirming, because the conclusion of the book is that it's worth living. So as I said, spoiler alert, but I mean, everything does work out for Nora in that she does choose to keep living. But I think there's something very comforting in sort of almost the predictability of it. You do want to see, it's more about that journey to the inevitable conclusion. And I found it very nice. I found it very pleasant but still thoughtful. I thought it was something that was just really engrossing, and I can see why it is so popular. And we talked about this. This is probably our most popular book that we've chosen.
It's wild. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for a while. We have multiple copies at the library. They're all out. There's holds on them. If you would like to read it and put yourself on the hold list, go to newcanaanlibrary.org. But I will say that I agree with you. I liked Nora's character. She was quirky. A lot of the situations were really funny. The premise is very dark. And I think that some of this formulaic, everything's going to work out in the end and you're going to realize that there's no place like home. We kind of know that's coming. But what saved it for me is that Matt Haig actually went through an experience where he had suicidal thoughts when he was 24. So there's something about this book that I think is a valid approach, because it's almost an own voice experience of what it feels like rather than somebody making light of a very heavy topic. I do want to tell you that I was lucky enough to go through a lot of mental health first aid training. If you suspect someone may be at risk for suicide, it is important to reach out to them, to speak to them directly about their thoughts, and not to avoid using the word suicide. It's important to be a person that someone can talk to. We have some great resources. First and foremost, there's the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255. And here in Connecticut, we have www.preventsuicidect.org. So it's a very heavy topic. Were there laugh out loud moments? Yes, but I feel that Matt Haig is writing from his experiences, and Nora saves the book for me. She's frustrating. I think it's difficult to see her make choices that are self-sabotaging, but at the same time, for example, when she's that Olympic swimmer and she's trying to figure out the life as she's in it, so there's a little bit of thinking on her feet, and she's trying to slip into a life that she knows nothing about, and she gets up in front of a microphone to do some sort of life coaching speech to all these people as a former swimming Olympian, and she rambles about in the funniest, quirky way, and there's something very adorable about that. Or when she realizes her dream of being a rock star that's packing a stadium and she's recording a podcast for someone, she ends up having some very self-effacing moments. That's how she finds out that who has broken up with her, and it's also tragically how she finds out that her brother took her own life. So what I do like about this book is that in each of these vignettes, they're interesting character studies, there's surprising moments, and they move through. It's a nice way to jump. Some of them are short as one sentence or two, and some of them are a few chapters where they explore something. So I think the device works because it's an authentic voice from the writer.
I did feel that it seemed very authentic, and it kind of used first of all, it's very clear that the Midnight Library is a metaphor, and it's actually sort of this tool that Nora responds to the idea of the library. It's her own personal version of how this works, but she meets someone else who has like a video store that's their sort of equivalent. But it's a really interesting device because it's almost like this therapy or like thought exercise kind of tool. And so like the particulars are, we're going to get into parallel universes and multiverses and all of this stuff, but more than anything, I think it's just kind of the concept to examine these regrets, and when she enters the Midnight Library, the first thing she's handed is her book of regrets, which seems like the worst possible. I would not want to see my book of regrets. It's just truly terrible, and I think that is the last time she looks at it, because she's like, I've seen enough. But it really helps her, though, I think, to put into perspective, all of these things you can kind of hang on to, like, if only I had done that, and this would have been so much better. But when she actually has the opportunity to live those things and realizes, here are all the flaws with that life, and here are all the reasons that it actually would have been terrible, it helps her to kind of break through sort of just, like, the general anxieties over did I make the right choice, and think about, well, in reality, what would that choice have meant for her? And so I really did think even to just apply to your own life. I mean, I think that is a helpful way to think of things.
It's so interesting, the things that send her back to the library as she explores these parallel lives in her multiverse. For example, she decides to go to Australia with her friend Izzy, only to find out that because she does, Izzy dies in a tragic car accident. And the moment she finds out that her brother overdosed, she leaves another spectacular life. And then there's smaller things that send her back. What I did appreciate was there was this hint of a romance with Ash at the very beginning, and this is the person whom they had a bit of a meet cute, and he asked her out for coffee, and she never took him up on it, and she kind of regrets it. And this is Nora's original life, and so he's the one that knocks on her door and tells her that her cat has died. And so I thought the book was bringing this romance together to the end, and where she is the happiest is finally that life where she did go out to coffee with Ash, and they're married and they have a kid, and he's a surgeon. The daughter's lovely, her brother's happy, and they come over for dinner parties, and he's happily in a relationship, and everything seems to work out great. And she did get her degree in philosophy, and her life seems perfect. And it's only when she revisits Nora Reed's life number 1 in her old neighborhood, and she sees what happens to the people because she was not there. So a neighbor that she used to help out is in a nursing home, and the little boy that she used to give music lessons to is being arrested on the street for theft.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I mean, there's a lot of tension in that chapter, which is strange because it's so lovely, but it's because you know that she wants so desperately to stay, and you know that it's so easy for her to be brought back to the Midnight Library the second that dissatisfaction seeps in. And so she's trying to be very conscious about being happy, and then that is the thing that kind of takes her out of it, and she just realizes, I'm not long for this life, because I can't just give up on these people. She realizes kind of the value of her what did they call it? Her root life, I believe.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And the way that she has helped people and affected people, and she thinks, she can go back and make a difference in that life.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of neat sub-devices here, because there's even the one where she explores being a glaciologist. Kathleen made me look up the pronunciation.
But I still made you say it.
Yes, that's true. That's not fair. So she ends up in Norway studying glaciers, which was, like a really cute dream of hers when she was a really little girl. And she runs across another jumper, another person, Hugo, sliding between lives. But Hugo's exploring it, I think, as a collection of videotapes, and she's exploring it in her library. So there's a lot of really neat mental rebuses to think about and explore here. And there is a little bit of nerd porn here. There is absolutely the discussion of metaphysical worlds and multiverses. It's sprinkled throughout the book. The store where she works is literally called String Theory. And as she's leaving, the cover of the National Geographic has a picture of a black hole in the front. They keep alluding to chess. She starts the book playing with the real Mrs. Elm, playing chess when she was a little girl. And then Mrs. Elm, the one that's sort of, what she literally asks Mrs. Elm at one point, are you God? Because she's so confused about this strange in-between place that's a library. And Mrs. Elm is using a chessboard to explain that there's multiple possibilities, endless, infinite possibilities of chess matches and lives. And then at the very end, when she does realize the positive impact she had on so many people's lives in her root life, she goes back to the library and leaves this perfect life with Ash. And Mrs. Elm tells her she's running out of time. And of course, the drama is a little heavy-handed with the library burning and coming down in flames around her ears. And she decides, that's the moment that she desperately wants to live.
So do you want to talk about, I know that you did a lot of research into Stephen Hawking and his many worlds interpretation, and I want to give you the floor for that, because you did do some research on that, and it's so funny when you said, oh, the store was called String Theory. I never picked up on that. I just had this moment right now of, oh, that makes sense.
Okay, first of all, you're cheating because that was part of my list of read-alikes or suggested readings if you enjoyed this. As much as this book is a lighthearted, almost Groundhog Day version of the effects of suicide and life choices and consequences, what is interlaced through all of this are conversations about the metaphysical world and philosophy. Her cat's name is Voltaire. There's all sorts of quotes, and you can tell that the author has a real passion for philosophy. I recently asked someone at the library if they read the book, and the person said, oh no, I'm not into philosophy, which surprised me. I didn't realize that this book was so tied into that. Anyway, the research that Kathleen is referring to is that I checked out a book, skimmed through the pages, didn't understand any of it. But I will tell you there's a book by Stephen Hawking called A Brief History of Time, from Big Bang to Black Holes. And if you actually like the show Big Bang Theory on TV and you like to sort of explore all these wild theories, I recommend it. If you're a little frightened of it, as I was, we have the illustrated version, which is a lot more helpful because I didn't understand a lot of it. But I will tell you, Kathleen, there was a point in my life that I did try to learn string theory. I took a few books out, and it was fascinating. There was all these, like when you see all these illustrations, and I'm going to do a terrible job describing it, but there's this like molecular clock or an atom. Like if you assume that something moves back and forth and it doesn't change in time, but then it slides forward, then by the definition, the hypotenuse is going to be longer than the moving up and down, which is actually time bending. Now, no one who just listened to that will understand it because I did such a terrible job describing it. But I do recommend this book, and it's fascinating. I think I will never be able to fully understand any of this, but every once in a while I like to take a book out on it and just explore the mental exercise.
So I think, and this is also, we picked another crossover teen and adult book. And so I just wanted to talk about, I thought one of the things that's really interesting is how much this kind of works for any stage, any age. And so all of these things with, like, as a teen, when you pick what college you go to or what kind of career you want to pursue, I think one of the interesting things is that Nora, she has the opportunity to pursue all these different things, but I think it kind of takes the pressure off in a way, which I thought was nice, because there are all these different ways that she can have a nice life or a bad life, and that's just one facet of it. And then she's always she has the capacity for reinvention, and so I thought that was kind of interesting, that it would appeal to me, it would speak to me, but I think it also does work as a book for teens.
I agree, and I think that the book is ultimately very uplifting. I like that it's exploring parallel lives. I like that it's written with a character that's witty and funny. I think it stands, it's extremely readable. It's fun to get these little nuggets of physics and quantum mechanics as you're reading a book about a really relatable person. So anyway, it's nice that it circles back to chess, because she does return to her life, and she realizes that her life, it really was a different perspective that she needed. She has all of these life lessons, and she's explored all of this philosophy, and she returns to her life, and the book ends, she goes to visit Mrs. Elm, the real Mrs. Elm, or the root Mrs. Elm, and they end up just sitting and playing a game of chess together.
It's a very nice full circle moment.
I loved it. I thought it was sweet. So wait, but I don't feel like I got an overall vibe. Did you like the book? Did you not like the book? Would you read another book like this?
I did like it. And I think one of the strange things about it is it's kind of like a feeling, even more so than I liked the plot of it. I liked it, but I think it's more than anything, it just kind of left me with a feeling where I felt that it was it was comforting and it felt good to read it. It was a pleasant experience.
Who are you? And what have you done with Kathleen?
I know.
I don't know that I've ever known you to like a book that's sort of predictably headed towards a happy ending.
And those are the hardest to talk about.
Yeah.
And I do think I mean, I was a lot more fiery with Nothing because there was a lot.
Nothing was so good, first of all.
It was tense.
I'm really surprised that you liked them. I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that it's a lot like the last book we read, House on the Cerulean Sea, because, I mean, you seem to like quirky happy endings. Is this a new post-pandemic Kathleen?
I wanted either really messed up or just taking you by the hand and saying everything's going to be okay. So one or the other.
Okay, so in season 1, your comfort food was murder? Horror?
Yeah, I said that. Yeah, murder.
Yeah.
I said that.
Do you have a different comfort read?
I will say that these were 2 books that we chose that I did not know if I was going to like, and they were not books I would have chosen on my own. So it wouldn't be my comfort food necessarily. I don't gravitate toward them, but I think there's just something so nice. A story doesn't have to, I know, I love the plot twist. My favorite thing is plot twists. But I think sometimes you can read a book and there's something pleasant about the inevitability, about the conclusion, and you're on that ride. You're going along with it. And I think Matt Haig does a great job. I think it's engaging. I think it's a good story. And I think that's more than anything. It can't be dull. It can't be something where you don't feel engaged in the characters, because you're not looking for something to shock you. You're just looking to enjoy that time you spent with them.
I'm so impressed with you and your growth mindset here.
I have grown so much as a person, and thank you for noticing.
Wow, because I think your pick of the season was Sadie, with the trauma and the pain, and I was gouged at the end of that, and you loved that book, and here we are. I mean, don't get me wrong, there is sort of self-murder at the very beginning, but all along the way, it was heartfelt and loving and sweet.
All words I would use to describe myself.
All right, welcome. Now it's officially spooky season. Okay, so do you have a quote for us?
I do.
Oh, good.
So I thought this kind of encapsulated basically the whole message of the book. It is easy to mourn the lives we aren't living. Easy to wish we'd developed other talents, said yes to different offers. Easy to wish we'd worked harder, loved better, handled our finances more astutely, been more popular, stayed in a band, gone to Australia, said yes to the coffee, or done more yoga. It takes no effort to miss the friends we didn't make and the work we didn't do and the people we didn't marry and the children we didn't have. It is not difficult to see yourself through the lens of other people and to wish you were all the different kaleidoscopic versions of you they wanted you to be. It is easy to regret and keep regretting ad infinitum until our time runs out. But it is not lives we regret not living that are the real problem. It is the regret itself. It is the regret that makes us shrivel and wither and feel like our own and other people's worst enemy. We can't tell if any of those other versions would have been better or worse. Those lives are happening, it's true, but you are happening as well, and that is the happening we have to focus on.
I like that. I feel like, okay, not to oversimplify, but I feel like that's the takeaway, which is be present. I like all throughout they often talk about it's not about what life you're supposed to be living, but just that you live.
I think so.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to find happy endings for you. Wonderful plots that roll along without any tragic, horrible twists.
All about the good vibes.
Tangled metal crunching on pavements and people running for their lives. This is a very different you.
So Sam, do you have some read-alikes for us?
I do. So In keeping with this very heavy topic, there is the young adult book 13 Reasons Why by Jay Asher. It was written a few years ago, I think 2007, and it's the story of Hannah Baker, a high school freshman, and the 13 reasons why she commits suicide. So following her death, she leaves behind a series of 7 double-sided cassette tapes, and it details to each of the people in her lives that she blames. And so these tapes are mailed out, and the story sort of unfolds through there. I will tell you that this book was largely challenged. A lot of people did not like approaching this topic for those who are not adults. But I think it was very well written, and I really liked it. The next book I have is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. The reason why I love this book, this is an adult book, but it has a lot of young adult appeal. Erin Morgenstern also wrote The Night Circus, which I absolutely loved. That's not my read-alike, but please pick it up. I love magical realism, and that's a great book. But The Starless Sea is about a graduate student in Vermont who discovers a mysterious book. And as he's reading this book, he reads a chapter about something that happened to him. It's literally about him. And so he follows this strange and mysterious world and ends up in this almost underground library. There's all these magical doors, and it's beautifully written. It's sort of a reader's author who really just, her descriptions, her character development, it's really incredible. And there's all these strange, there's Mirabelle, a pink-haired protector of the Starless Sea, which is what they call this strange sort of library, this magical place. And he ends up there through a masquerade at an event in New York City. And then he also meets Dorian, who is his love interest and is this barefoot, handsome man that whispers a story to him in this just incredible, dreamlike sequence of a masquerade. Anyway, the book is just, if you have the time and the patience to just let something lyrically unfold in magical realism, that is it. That is a great book. And the last read-alike I have is The 13th Tale by Diane Setterfield. It's about a reclusive author, Vita Winter, and she's famous for her collection of enchanting stories, and she spent decades writing alternate lives about herself, and now she's older and she's ready to reveal the truth, and she invites this young biographer to her home, and this biographer becomes entranced by the author's tale. If you like sweeping family sagas and you like the creepiness of V.C. Andrews, I strongly recommend that to you. So, what are we reading next?
First of all, I just want to frame this as a triumph for me. I have recommended this book to you and to all of our podcast listeners. It's probably been years now that I've been talking about this book, and I think even when I brought it up, you were hesitant to say yes. So I'm really curious what you think when you read it. So this is Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. It's the story that is actually told in reverse chronological order about sort of mysterious main character who is impersonating maybe another character, and all of these sorts of questions of mistaken identity and who is who. So it's about these two friends, Imogen and Jewel, and there's a lot of kind of confusing, wild plot developments that happen along the way. So even though it is going backwards, there are so many things that we find out throughout the book, and it's a wild ride. It's really exciting. So it's got murder and disappearances, and it's a really exciting thriller. So I cannot wait to find out what Sam thinks next.
I will tell you that you've recommended this book every day to me for the last 4 years, and
No.
I finally gave up, and I finished it. I've read it. So,
And you have kept very close to the vest. I don't know a single thing about what you felt.
nor will you until next time. So let's just leave that at that.
All right, so tune in.
Yeah. So we'll see you guys next time. We'll talk about genuine fraud. Finally. You're welcome, Kathleen.
4 years in the making.
It's going to be great. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.